Okay, and I think now it should work again. There was some background noise. Once again, the NDC Spotlight, it's a short series of dialogues that we have here at the Secretariat with experts, with governments, and every now and then also with colleagues from the UNFCCC process. And we want to use this to update everyone who's interested on activities around the globe that are happening to implement NDCs from all different perspectives. We have this webinar series is also recorded, so that means that you can download it at any time or listen to it online on our website. And if you have any questions or ideas, or you also think it would be something interesting, or you have something interesting to present, then you can just send us an email at NDCs, so NDC and an S, at unfccc.int. Also, what we are doing with these webinar series is to invite you to ask questions to our guests and presenters. So that is very simple. You can just use the chat function in the webinar software and just send your question directly to us, and I will read it out to our presenter. Just before we start, at our today's session, we will hear more from Anna about the activities of the World Bank. And Anna is a climate change specialist with the Climate Change Group of the World Bank, where she is managing the operations of a multi-donor trust fund, the NDC Partnership Support Facility, to support the implementation of NDCs in developing countries. Anna also provides direct support to teams working to implement NDCs and the achievements of the adaptation targets in these NDCs. So I'm very, very excited to have Anna here with us today. And with that, would give the floor to you, Anna, and would encourage all our participants to ask questions via the chat function. So we will now shift exactly to your presentation, and then as soon as you can see it, you can just start right away.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfectly. Thanks, Anna.
Perfect. Okay. I just trying to share my screen. Okay, 1 second, and I'll try to do. And so, thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. And it's a pleasure to be here with you, and I really appreciate the UNFCCC for this invitation and the opportunity to share with you some of the work that the World Bank is doing in terms of the NDC implementation and overall support. So just to check that now you're able to see the full screen.
Oh, yeah. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, great. So in only 10 minutes, I would like to briefly tell you a bit of what we've been doing and how the World Bank is taking the issue of the NDC implementation. So it's not been done in a vacuum. So the World Bank has approved a climate change, a wide World Bank Group Climate Change Action Plan. And within this action plan, there's explicitly points to address how to promote the implementation of NDCs. So in particular, the World Bank has been working the last few years in really supporting how to translate, supporting different countries into translation of the NDCs, and what does it mean into application of those climate policies, enable environment, and how to translate those into investment plans, into actual actions. Within this plan, the World Bank is really committed to, with selected partners and selected countries, to really work more deeply in terms of create, share, and implement more innovative solutions, and what those packages could be to answer specific clients or governments in their demands, and how we can really contribute and coordinate some of the actions, anything that has to do with the Sustainable Development Goals, poverty reduction, development goals, but really aligned to the NDCs, and how this can really contribute to the global debate and stimulate and enhance that conversation from the perspective of the different countries. And another particular component of these climate action plan was to also provide an easily accessible, consolidated, one-stop shop, how we say, data or platform that at that point was to be made available to all the internal staff on understanding the NDCs more particularly, into discussing climate finance and see what are the opportunities in terms of tools and methodologies. So it's a consolidation of actions that we have within the bank in trying to support the different teams working with the countries to understand where the resources or where the climate finance options could be made available, what are the different tools and methodologies that we could have handy, and facilitate that to the different teams and different sectors and governments in ways to discuss more upfront how to really engage and implement NDCs. So more in detail, what are we doing is, as I mentioned, really trying to mainstream the implementation of NDCs, and how is really already showing up as part of our regular technical assistance and part of our lending and portfolio. So the lending portfolio has really increased in the last 2 years, I would say, in terms that a lot of the projects are now purposely and directly mentioning, implementing, or supporting development or enhancement of INDC work. Also, within the World Bank itself, we are consolidating an NDC working group, and we're trying to have at least one every quarter or every, not more than every 6 months, but really try to have a lot of internal discussions. What do they mean? What are we doing? How we're really revamping this discussion. I will get in details into some of these detailed action in my presentation. On top of that, we're really trying to talk with our experts on how to provide more specific guidance to sector and regional teams on what does it mean to implement and what does it mean to capture some of the NDC priorities. And also we are expanding and trying to bring our different partners of the World Bank Group, such as the private sector, which is the International Finance Climate Group, sorry. It's more the private branch of the World Bank, and how the private sector will bring more opportunities linked to the NDC implementation as well. And also then at that point, we also created this content database and country briefs in an effort to really provide more standardized information on what the contents of the NDCs or INDCs still do say or do try to convey. And this is a bit of the picture that you have here, the World Bank NDC platform. This platform, it's indc.worldbank.org, is now is available publicly. And the goal of that platform was really to provide a sense of what do the task teams working with the countries would like to learn about the NDCs. And this was done 1.5 years ago, when the whole after Paris, and it was this really interest and massively start working with NDCs and what do they mean. So it was a bit of a capacity building effort within our teams, but also a way to more in a way that provide more systematic understanding in terms of what are the countries talking about cost, what are the countries that depict carbon pricing, or what are as methods to really move forward in terms of reduction of their emissions, what are the ones that do talk about different options. So we have a very in-depth database, as well as some country briefs that were developed to provide that in a synthesis. The purpose of this platform was really to provide a quick access, although now it's being so only targeting to the needs of the World Bank task teams, but we made this opportunity and this website available externally. So please feel free to explore it and see in a way that more information. We also made a small video about it and a small teaser of what are the opportunities. So the link will be, it's underlined the picture, but it will also be shared in this presentation later on if you're interested. This is one of the examples of the analysis that this NDC platform can provide you. So analysis by sectors, and then either adaptation, mitigation, or combined. But our really interest was to understand by regions, by countries, and also try to bring the understanding of anything regarding cost, because that's a bit of the key pillar for the World Bank analysis and entry points, to start understanding how much of these actions would need additional support in terms of how the condition and conditional cost of those actions. So it was something that the teams were very interested in understanding. So part of the analysis of the database is to provide this kind of synthesis. The database now is going to be also part of the large NDC global partnership. And as a contribution of that partnership, the database will also be part of the new database called NDC Explorer that will be soon be released by the NDC Partnership Support Unit that is hosted in WRI. So I think there was a couple of seminars before webinars that would tell about this. But these are the type of work that we're starting to do in terms of at least getting all our teams on board, understand what NDCs is, understand what particular countries are saying, and then how to lead the work from there on. So I mentioned the NDC partnership, and this is something that the World Bank has been now quite aligned to it. We are fully supporting the mandate of the partnership and the objectives. We, in particular, are a member of the steering committee, and we represent the perspective of different multilateral finance institutions within this member steering committee. As part of that, we are also having part of this joint work plan, which is more part of the institutional members such as UNDP, WRI, and FCC, and other implementing partners that are called implementing partners because we receive financial support, and also we have other financial means to start supporting the different countries and kickstart this really engagement in terms of what does it mean to implement NDCs and how we can coordinate about this. So we're working very collaboratively with the partnership. We are also delivering a lot of technical advisory services, and we hope to do that more and more in synchronizing in more coordination aspects with the members of the partnership at all, so we can really enhance the coordination work internally with the different ministries, but also externally, and as with the donors, and also to be able to be more efficient in the way that we deliver technical assistance efforts. So in addition to work with the NDC partnership and its different funds and different implementing partners, within the bank, we're also trying to be more systematic in the way that we are organizing our different other trust funds, other focus initiatives that the bank is managing. But the idea that we are consolidating and trying to integrate all the overall work to really provide success to the NDC partnership at large. As part of that, and in being more specific about what are the finance support that the bank can provide and what is the resources that we are providing for the implementation, we also launched the NDC Partnership Support Facility. And this is a mechanism, it's a managed a trust fund that we manage, and it was designed to support specifically NDC implementation via the bank executed project. So the teams have been engaging with the different clients and the different governments, and with the initial support from the kind and generous German government, we have been already starting to allocate funds. We have more than 23 projects in 18 countries so far. All the money has been allocated as of last month. And so they're starting this 2-year pilot. It will be up to calendar year 18 to really demonstrate how the low-hanging fruits and what are the issues that the countries would face, and quickly start moving and facilitating the work of the countries to leverage other resources, but also quickly get into the implementation mode, and how we then can demonstrate that the countries can move or quickly identify what are the gaps for them to move from design to implementation. One of the examples of this, and I just want to highlight, is the trust fund. Is a particular trust fund that has specific NDCs carved out within the program, and this is the Partnership for Market Readiness. So it's an overall support to the framework of the Paris Agreement work program. And the PMR, as we call it, you might be aware of it already, but it's really particularly as being developed in the last couple years, customized support to do the refinement and implementation of the NDCs. And they do this through particular capacity building and application of modeling and different type of analysis at the policy level, and then how we can test so those design and policy design options, what works, what doesn't, what are the key gaps to enable those policies and measures. And they're also doing that at the country and program level. So the PMR is working to develop tools, apply those tools and create capacity, internalize different policy analysis and scenario building, and then define how much the implementation of those policies can be successful. So this is a very good example of how particular components of PMR has been really developed into NDC. And we hope now we can really expand this action not only to the mitigation side, but how we can, in combination with NDC support facility, another aspect, we can really put this on large for adaptation, mitigation, and anything that deals with implementation of NDC. And then finally, I just want to mention about a new aspect. So all these components are part of the NDC support facility that we are providing as part of the work at large. And one of them is this Climate Action Peer Exchange Initiative. This initiative was launched in Morocco also at the last COP22. And the idea is that working with the microfinance departments of the World Bank, that the idea is to really help finance ministries build their capacity to design, explore, and internalize different fiscal policies that would be able to make implementation of NDCs a much more concrete action. And so to start from the mere ministries from finance, who are the actual counterparts of the World Bank in every single country, and then how to really try to get it as a top-down approach as well, to really internalize the benefits that the need for well-designed fiscal climate policies can have, and then that would be much more effective than other more traditional objectives of the finance ministry. And the idea that this peer exchange approach will create a community of practice that will allow different ministries to promote different peer exchange. Maybe a country A is really interested in country B lessons and how they were able to establish some different mechanisms and policies. So this process would allow for self-evaluation and sharing of best practice, and we believe this could be done at that level rather than keep it into the usually either sector or environmental ministries. But we can speed up a bit of that implementation if we are addressing this discussions right with the finance ministries. And the key issues would usually be understanding climate-informed budgeting, how we can start promoting carbon pricing, what does it mean in terms of fiscal policies, issues such as green taxation, raise of green bonds, risk insurances, fuel subsidy reforms, and also overall the macroeconomic modeling of how this would be with climate risk and NDCs. So this is an initiative that is just launching. There's a couple of events it's going to start happening this year, but we are very hopefully that this would be a very nice another initiative to really get NDCs on the table and start discussing from all the way. So this is very quick, a very quick snapshot of what we're doing, and I will be glad to have any more questions. And we also have my manager, Stephen Hammer, and we're sitting in the Climate Analytics and Advisory Services team. And but there's also many other colleagues in our team that have different expertise, and will be helpful to provide you other contact if you're interested. Working more at that level, or working directly with the countries if you're interested. So I'll pass it over, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Anna. That was great. And yeah, thank you so much for the presentation, and also for bringing so many details and so much information into this really very short time frame that we had here. Of course, always when we have very exciting and interesting guests, there are a couple of questions. So before we start, first let me let me also comment on the database that you developed, because I used it, and it is really, in my opinion, really good. And I'm one of those people that read through all NDCs and before that all INDCs, and this database really gave me a completely different view on the INDCs and NDCs. So that was extremely useful for me to better understand what is all out there. And thank you very much for this work. You can really tell that a tremendous amount of work went into that. One question was already put forward by our participants relating also the database. To which extent do you use this data in the bank for your day-to-day work, or is it more for the public to just access it, to look at NDCs differently?
Okay, great. Thank you for that question. Yes, it was a bit an overwhelming exercise. We thought it would be just 3 months, but it took us over more than 8 months to go in a very detailed review of the NDCs and trying to make a more homogenic, a more transparent way to compare, particularly the comparison country, and understand the gaps. So one way we do use it a lot is doing analysis, for example, by regions or by a set of countries. And we have been engaging in, for example, leading the work for strategic climate action plans in the Middle East and North Africa region. Or, for example, I just finalized a detailed review of the NDCs using this database, and then matching a bit of what the World Bank portfolio is in regions such as Latin America. In particular, what we're trying to use this database because it's very useful to understand, see gaps, because as we start comparison, then we see that a lot of such countries, for example, have a much more detailed understanding of what are the actions, what are the plans, or specific intended defined actions in sectors, for example, agriculture or transport. And then the World Bank is really trying to merge or analyze its portfolio and trying to understand how much we're doing to try to understand the synergies that we have in the work that we already it's ongoing on those countries to what the alignment of the NDCs are saying. So for us, it's been very useful to start putting those things together. And I think it's creating the understanding of the opportunities and the gaps. And in particular, we're looking to, as the NDCs get revised and get more information into it, that for the World Bank, and I think it goes for all the different institutions, UNFCCC included, and many other implementing partners, in particular for the multi-developer banks, is that we are using it as a kind of a line and a guiding to try to match what is the work that we're already doing, developing, and how it's coming back and going to support the NDC. So definitely it's helping us, and it's helping us observe the gaps and potential challenges, but also opportunities that we can work with the different countries if that's the wish or interest from the countries themselves.
Many thanks, Anna. That was no, it's really interesting for me to have this discussion with you here and to hear your answers, so that you're well, you really know what you're talking about. This is great. We have a couple of questions that basically relate to the World Bank's work on NDC implementation, and mainly whether you are supporting countries in developing portfolios that are integrated in already existing development strategies, or whether they go now on top after Paris, well, on top to what has been done there before. And also a similar question, do you see already changes in countries or government portfolios that you are working on in the World Bank, so that countries are, or that you really see in your daily work that countries are going to implement their NDCs, and do you have some examples for that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think that's the challenge and the success that we all want to see, right? So I think in terms of, so the World Bank is supporting every aspect of the NDCs. So for example, PMR in particular has been supporting from just to write and get the NDCs in place. So all the basic and analytical work that has gone into scenario building, policy design, exercise to understand what would be the best policies for reduction of mitigation. We're still not much, and I think we have a lot big space to do in supporting how to integrate adaptation into NDCs, and I think we're very keen to also do that, and we hope to expand that support. Going forward, and the idea is that the support facility that the World Bank is trying to increase, enhance, and provide that support, particularly for that conditional component of the NDC for the different countries, and allow them to access that funding to understand what are the actions. But us is really interesting to move from the policy to actually investment plan. So how do we get from the wish list to designing and joint with and supporting the different countries to get to the actual investments that are needed under each sector? And so something that we're really seeing is that now, and I think it's really exciting for us, that we understand the challenges and the implementation will be a long way, but I think we're excited to see that coordination is happening. I think our experiences, for example, in the part of the proposals that we have allocated funds in transport sector, for example, that is addressing Costa Rica, I would say one country as an example, particular aspect that they already identified in improving the transport sector, electrifying for electrification of the transport sector in some particular cities, that they have done that, but it's really addressing now the integration of the energy sector, environment sector, and also it's not only the traditional environment ministries that most countries that I've been working on is where the NDC focal points sit, but how to facilitate the dialogue or they access, because at the end, any implementation work that we're doing, it needs to be verified, monitored, and also support the NDC focal point in the country that they can go back and say, yes, we're able to implement this. So I think it's a long way, but the success is that different countries, we see much more dialogue, which we see much more integration, and I think we're very happy to keep supporting those aspects.
Another question now that you just elaborated a little bit on how the World Bank or you are also supporting countries. Are you also directly involved in translating, let's say, ideas that are captured in NDCs into real projects that are then ready for funding, and how are you doing that?
The goal, sorry, I was on mute. I think the goal is to address what are the low-hanging fruits in terms of concrete actions that every country know already, that will position them in a better way and will help them advance into what is implementation. So I think we're very keen to quickly step into that direction, get those already defined. There are countries that have very, very well defined what they want, what they need, and some of the aspects they just need some starting support and financial support to get that going. So I think that's something that we're prioritizing. But in between, we're also really trying to identify what are the levers, what are the upstream work, and when we see upstream, is a lot of the dialogue that I was saying with the finance ministries. What are the policies that are really need to be put in place to then facilitate the cascade of action? So not so much, the investment plan is where we go, and that would be like the finalization of the action, but along those and the actions that need to be put in place quickly in terms of infrastructure and actions or investments, we also want to provide that enabling environment. So we make sure that the support is something that can come from all the way, and that will be a sustainable path. So a lot of the support facility funds are really targeted to do that as well. So we're implementing everything that you would say under the sun of the NDC, not only the investment portion of it, but everything that it will allow that facilitation. So the revamping, and make sure when we get to the investment plan, there's a very strong infrastructure that will sustain that.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks really for going into detail and elaborating a little bit on that answer. I have one more question here from Vitor. It's the question: how is the bank? And I think it's a very difficult question, because how is the bank addressing projects that would obviously not be in line with NDCs? So that is a very controversial issue that is discussed in many fora. Maybe you can answer that in very simple terms.
Yes, indeed, is a very one, and I think this answer I'll provide it more as a personal answer. I don't think I may not represent the World Bank at large. I think in a personal view is we also, the World Bank group at large has an objective and has a vision on poverty reduction and sharing prosperity. So we on top of that, we also try to, those are our overarching goals on how to deal or to try to tackle development. So climate change and now the NDCs and the targets to get to the Paris Agreement, of course, is something that we are considering very, very seriously. And you see, we're integrating those needs into their plans, and how the World Bank is really leading its work to get to those two goals. So I think it's just one layer more. I think it's something that we need to ensure that the work that we do is sustainable, is resilient, is climate smart, and that would attain to get those particular goals. But many countries, as you all know, the NDCs are quite scarce, and it's very difficult to really understand what are the actions that maybe the countries are there. So I think the work that we have is continue to try to improve and help development. We have, I think, a responsibility to bring along what we understand as a climate smart development, and maybe start helping with all these initiatives that in those NDCs that maybe there's no clear pathways and no clear understanding how on the work plan, how to get to those goals. and really commit to those targets. And is the discussion, is the enabling environment, is facilitating everything that we can to get those dialogue going, to try to get to that plan in the most robust and sustainable way. But there's not right and wrong answer, and sometimes, we still need to, trying to get development as the big objective, but we need to understand that there's a different way to do development now. So I think I would say that, but I think it's my personal response on this point.
Thanks, Anna, but I think that was actually a very nice closing statement for today, because I think, we have to work with many, many partners to change the way we are supporting development, and development is moving forward. And I think the work you and your team are doing at the World Bank is really good on that, because now we are 1.5 years after Paris, and I think the next step has to be done now, and this step is really to translate the NDCs into concrete projects. And well, I would say with that said, we reached also the end of this short dialogue. I think, Anna, with you, we could have filled an hour easily, but it should only give a snapshot of this, and I would like to thank you very much for joining us, for answering the questions, for giving your presentation. The presentation will be also available on our website. We will upload it there in the section where also all information about the webinars are hosted. And I would like to say thank you very much to you, Anna, and to everyone who was listening today, and also everyone who will download this episode later. The next webinar will take place on 20th of July, 2 hours earlier. So that would be 2 p.m. Bonn time, and that is in 2 weeks. And we will speak with the government of Indonesia, and they will introduce their NDC and also the activities they are doing to implement it, and also the challenges they are facing in doing this implementation. So thank you very much, and have a good day or evening wherever you are.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all. Bye-bye.